Welcome to the College Knowledge Podcast, sponsored by the College Planning Network and Paradigm Financial Group. Whether you're searching for that right fit college, applying to college, or figuring out how you're going to afford it all, you're in the right place. You'll hear from deans, admissions counselors, student athletes, and scholars from esteemed universities and colleges around the country. We'll dig deep to uncover their insight and unique experiences. So whether you're a student gearing up for college or a parent with college-bound kids, sit back, relax, and listen. Like you, we have lots of questions. Our guests have the answers, and we're excited to share them with you. Let's get started. We can send your student to the school of their dreams and send you to your dream retirement. Visit us at elitecollegiateplanning.com to get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to College Knowledge. I'm your host, Dave Kozak, alongside my co-host, Mr. Joe Kearns. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Dave. Dave, did you know that for this year, for colleges that are looking at, applications, more than 80% of colleges are going to be using AI to assist in going through who should be accepted or not?
I did not know that as fact, but I assume that they're going to lean into that as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, we have the distinguished pleasure today of interviewing Dr. Robert Ghrist from the University of Pennsylvania, the Andrea Mitchell University professor and electrical and systems engineering and mathematics, and also the associate dean of undergraduate education. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We look forward to interviewing you.
Happy to be here.
So I did my research, so I have all kinds of questions for you, but give us a little background about how you got to Penn and your teaching style and sort of how your experience from being in higher education to now professing in higher education and how you got there.
Sure thing. It's a long story because I've been doing this job for a long time. I started off way back when, growing up in Cleveland, Ohio. And when it was time for me to figure out where to go to college, it was a different time and a different place. The idea of going to a fancy East Coast school was just not on the table. I think I visited 3 places and I put in one application to the school I liked the most. And that was University of Toledo in Toledo, Ohio. I got a great education. My advisor took me aside one day and said, "So where are you going to graduate school?" I said, What is that? Normal people don't do that." And that started me off on the journey to academia. I fell in love with all the things I was learning, got a PhD from Cornell University, decided to go into academia, become a professor. I love teaching, I love research, taught at a couple of great schools, none so great as the University of Pennsylvania, where I've been for 16 years.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
So there is one thing that I want to ask specifically about, because it's in one of your titles, one of your many titles, but the Andrea Mitchell PIK Professor of Mathematics and Electrical and Systems Engineering. Can you tell us what the Penn Integrates Knowledge, you were the 7th professor awarded that. What is that about?
Yeah, the title's a mouthful. Sorry about that.
That's all good.
PIK program, the Penn Integrates Knowledge Program, is a fantastic program that the university launched about 17 years ago in order to hire professors who were between disciplines, who were integrating different types of knowledge together. So these are people who have appointments not just in 2 different departments, but in 2 different schools on campus. So for example, I'm in the mathematics department, which is in the School of Arts and Sciences. I'm also in electrical and systems engineering, which is in the engineering school here at Penn. We have PIK professors who are just all over the map doing crazy things. Like you got somebody who's in the medical school and the business school, and they're studying how psychology and marketing and neuroscience, how the brain works, how those things fit together. Really cool. We have more than 24 such professors here at Penn right now.
So it's all about the integration of different sort of subject matter and being able to I guess, relate them to one another, right?
Exactly. This is a really unique program. It's something that really drew me to Penn.
Awesome. And so there is something that I don't know about and I didn't research because I was hoping the expert would tell me. What is topology?
Oh, topology. Topology is the area of mathematics where I do my research. It is the study of abstract space, which doesn't mean like the cosmos with
Hmm.
stars and black holes and stuff, although it is kind of related to that. It's rather the idea of just abstract space, like a seven-dimensional space. What would that look like? If you've got a three-dimensional space, does it necessarily have to look and feel like the one that we're in? Could it be different? This is a really interesting subject in that on the one hand, it's kind of geometric. You think about what these things look like. But on the other hand, the way that we do the mathematics associated with it, super heavy algebra.
Hmm.
And that doesn't sound much like engineering, does it? But what I specialize in is taking that really weird abstract math and then pulling it over into application domains that folks in engineering and elsewhere care about. So I do a lot of applications to data science, networks, robotics, uh, all over the map. Ton of fun. I love doing mathematics research.
Interesting. I appreciate the explanation. So obviously you've done a lot of research. You've been published. How does your, first of all, how do you guys approach research at Penn? Do you use students? Do you use undergrad, postgrad? Do you use what level of students can engage? And how is sort of the research looked at the University of Pennsylvania?
So Penn is one of the leading research universities in the United States, if not the world. It's central to what we do, not to the exclusion of our teaching mission or how we serve our community, but research is absolutely massively important to what we do. It's also vertically integrated across the university. So many of the people who are here are involved with research in one way or another. We've got so many great faculty in the medical school here who are not only treating patients and helping society, they're doing cutting edge research. We have professors in all the different schools who are just at the leading edge of what is happening. But that is not a solo sport, it's a
Hmm.
team sport. And for example, I've got a rather significant group of master's and PhD students who are working with me on a bunch of different projects. In fact, we're going to have a meeting right after this podcast is over to go over what we've been doing this week. A lot of labs across campus pull in undergraduates, especially those that are heavy on the physical side. You think chemistry, biology, robotics, bioengineering, things like that. And on the coding side, where students who are just getting started, just learning, can really contribute a lot.
That's awesome. And I guess if one of the cores of the institution itself is the research and to be on the cutting edge, you sort of have to embrace that. How do you balance the teaching and maybe more importantly, how does the research play into the curriculum of the students as they go through it? Is that credit-based research? Is it sort of extracurricular? What is it besides the obvious real-time experience of learning and being involved in the research? How does the school weight that towards a degree or towards the graduate degree?
That's a great question. And the answer is going to depend a
Okay.
little bit on which portion of Penn you're in. In the area where I live in engineering, our policy is that students can earn credit for doing research, or they can get paid for doing research.
Mm.
But we don't mix those two together. We have a whole bunch of different research experience programs, research experience opportunities, some of which are paid, some of which are credit-based. A lot of it is up to the students' needs, what they are looking for. We have
Mm.
a lot of students here at Penn who are first gen and or low income students who are on financial aid. We've got a really, really strong financial aid program, a significant component of which is the work study. And we're really eager to get students involved in research through that work study program so that they're earning money and they're getting great experience at the same time. For other students, it makes more sense to have that convert as credit and have it on their transcript towards earning their degree. We're very flexible and willing to accommodate what students' needs are.
And it does the flexibility indicate the type of research? Meaning, like, is there a specific type of research that is only going to be paid and a specific type of research that is only going to be credit? Or is it sort of really left at the advising level and the student level to make that choice?
It's somewhere in between those.
Okay.
I would say that it's not that this type of research always has to be paid, this type of research always has to be for credit. Rather, it's what program you're engaging with in order to get that research experience. We have a number of different programs. For example, the Radcliffe Scholars Program, or a more traditional work study program, or there are various clubs that are formed here at Penn Engineering where you might be doing research type activity. Depending on how you engage, that's going to determine whether this is a position for pay or a position for credit or something that's just for fun.
Awesome. Another sort of follow-up to that is, you hear a lot about research grants. It's sort of like everybody hears that. I don't know that people understand what that means and what it takes to receive those grants. You talk a little bit about that process for, is that specifically at faculty level? Are students engaging in like prospective grant, trying to acquire grants? How does that whole process work?
That is a long and complicated process. I'll be willing to give you the high-level overview.
Perfect.
Research grants are vital to the mission of the university. Our ability to do research is very much dependent on receiving research grants from a variety of government agencies, as well as private corporations, private foundations, things like that. All of the PhD students that I have in my research group, they're supported through research grants that I have to submit to various government institutions. For example, the National Science Foundation, the National Institute for Health, the Department of Defense, various branches thereof. That really makes it possible for us to educate these PhD students, to give them the training and research they need, and to really get them started. It is a huge amount of work to write these grants, manage them, administer them, do the reporting, et cetera, et cetera. Now, how do you get experience in that stuff, right? Do you wait until you become a professor and then they just say, okay, start writing some grants? No, you need training in this, and you need a culture of learning how to do this. So the way that we have a lot of things structured at Penn, and I believe it's similar at other universities as well, is that, for example, if you're doing undergraduate research, if you've got a really good idea, you can submit a proposal to an internal funding agency that Penn's various research programs operate. This is a good way to kind of get started. It's not gonna get in the way of your studies, right? You don't have to write a massive 100-page document outlining all this stuff. You're also not going to get a ton of resources because, again, this is supplemental to your education. This is not in place of taking your classes, but it's a great way to be able to fund an idea that you've got and to just sort of get some experience in terms of how the world of research works.
Fantastic answer. Because I was questioning. So there is the sort of starting of that is could be at the undergraduate level with an idea, writing for internal resources. You get some experience. At the graduate level, are they supporting the grant writing? Because I imagine a lot of PhD students that are, I don't want to make a gross generalization here, but as some portion of them are going to go into academia, and they're going to have their own responsibility at some point to be at the helm of these grants. Is that additional sort of education that they get along the way as well?
That's going to vary a lot from
Okay.
professor to professor. I am aware of professors who get their students involved in the grant writing process. For my own part, I tend to try to insulate my students
Okay.
from that because, well, how should we put it? It's a bit of a grind. It's a little bit unpleasant. And I really want my students to be able to focus on their work, the fun stuff, right? All good
Yeah.
research. So I tend to insulate my students, but other people can make choices as they wish. Academic freedom, that's good. We love that.
Absolutely. All right. Shifting gears just a little bit, you have taken on a new role in the last 2 years at the University of Pennsylvania as the associate dean. Tell us a little bit about your responsibilities there for the engineering department and what you're now incorporating, because we've already heard you've got grant writing, you've got being a professor to both graduates, masters, and now you're sort of the associate dean responsible for, I'd imagine, some of the structure, class, curriculum, what's being taught, and sort of that cutting edge piece. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Be happy to. So to make it precise, I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education. Now, we have a lot of students at Penn Engineering, both at the undergrad level and at the master's level and at the PhD level. And there are associate deans for those other layers as well.
Okay.
My responsibility is to our undergraduate students. I love this job. I was so happy when I got this job because, well, there's a lot of administrative jobs where it's kind of a lot of work and you don't get to interface with students.
Mhm.
I get to have the administrative job where I got a lot of work, but I get to face the undergrad students. I have to work with them frequently. When I've got a student who has a problem, who is in trouble, they come to me. I can talk with them. I can help them get paired up with resources to help them solve their problems. I got a student who's having trouble. It looks like they're not going to graduate on time. I work with them, set up a plan, try to help them out. I'm also involved in a lot of planning and execution of new educational initiatives, starting new majors, thinking and rethinking the way that we do education here at the undergraduate level at Penn. All of this stuff is part of what goes into being an undergraduate dean, and I love it all. I'm still teaching classes, I'm still doing research.
Mhm.
Difficult to balance it all, but I got a lot of practice in this kind of life. So here we go.
When you mention new majors, how does that come about? What's that process like?
I was about to-
Getting it, still talking about, oh, there's a new college major. Man, how does that take place?
Oh, let me tell you about that. Because when I was being interviewed by the dean for this position, and he said, what's your priorities? What do you want to do if you step into this job? Very high on my list was AI, artificial intelligence. That is coming, that is
Mhm.
here, and it's going to change everything. And I'm really passionate about rethinking the way that we teach our undergraduates, incorporating AI. One of the first things that I got involved with this past year was setting up Penn's new undergraduate engineering degree in AI. We're the first Ivy League school to have a degree in artificial intelligence. We're one of the first schools in the country to offer such a degree. We've just launched it, and we have our first set of incoming students who are declaring that major. We're setting up new courses. This is a very exciting time.
How that's amazing, because it's so necessary. I mean, to stay cutting edge, you have to be cutting edge, right? Which means that was the takeaway that I had, because one of your first cutting edge was I think it was teaching calculus through I don't know if it was online platforms or there was some, I can pull it back up here. Let me make sure I don't misquote it. Pioneer in teaching calculus through electronic media. So sort of it's sort of pushing forward that way we teach. And we did an interview, and I forget his name, and I feel like a jerk for forgetting his name, but he was talking about the way AI is going to manipulate, and maybe manipulate's the wrong word, but the idea that the stuff that we had to learn 30 years ago is almost automated to a point, some of it, where you don't need to know it because it's just every day done for you. And so you're able to push the bounds of what can be done. And I think it's fascinating when you talk about creating a major in it. Follow up to that is, how competitive was that major in its sort of debut?
So we're still finding out what the answer to that is going to be, right? This major got announced in February of 2024, which means
Okay.
after
Got
the
it.
application cycle
Mhm.
for the year. So this fall is going to be the first opportunity for students to apply to Penn to go directly into the AI degree. I'm really curious to see what kind of response we get from this. From all indications so far, there's a ton of interest, there's a ton of excitement about that. I've got existing students who are here who are transferring into that major.
Mhm.
I'm really interested to see how the numbers are going to work out.
I've always had the question, when a school does start, and Penn may be very different from another school just because of the prestige, but are there any type of specific scholarships kind of to, recruit students into a new major that's, again, doesn't have a history of success? That you can basically say, you're kind of taking a chance here. So we'll reward you with a little bit of money or try and pull you in. Does that happen at all? I don't know if it happens at Penn, but do you see or hear of any schools doing that there's a new program that they're launching? And so, hey, they don't have a track record, so they have to try and recruit kids from other schools, offer them some money. Does that happen?
Oh, I think that's an interesting suggestion. I, I don't really see that here
Hmm.
at Penn. The acceptance rate into engineering in general is the lowest of all four of the undergrad schools here at
Yeah.
Penn. It's extremely competitive. We got people, really good people trying to get in.
Yeah.
That being said, we're always on the lookout for great talent, and someone who's willing to take a chance and go into a program that we're prioritizing, you know, not sure, but that might make a difference.
Hmm.
It would be interesting to see how other schools incentivize
Hmm.
taking advantage of new programs. But for us, our strategy has been just word of mouth,
Yeah.
talking about it, showing what's out there. The buzz for AI is strong enough that I think it's going to do a lot of the work for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What so let let's hypothesize the future here and say we've got our first cohort of AI graduates. Where are they going? What are they going to do? Like, I mean, I got to believe that becomes the most coveted sort of position I mean, especially defense companies, research companies, data companies. I mean, that's got to be like, I mean, you'd have to, I just imagine those are going to be the most deployable jobs on the planet.
You're not wrong. Yeah. If AI progress stopped today, if it just, oh, yeah, sorry, that's as good as we can do. We can't
Hmm.
improve on it at all. Even if it stopped today, it would still take another 5, maybe even 10 years for the progress that we've seen in the past couple of years to fully propagate
Hmm.
Yeah.
throughout all the companies, all the different layers of federal government, etc. There's so much work to be done. Now, I know it's not a great time in tech right now. There have been layoffs, there have been declines in terms of hiring through a number of complicated reasons, some being that people are keeping their powder dry to see what AI winds up doing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But you should be very optimistic about the future. And having a degree where you've had training in the latest perspectives, latest research, all the latest stuff happening with AI, even if progress stopped today, this would still be a very valuable degree, and progress ain't stopping today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that ever goes in reverse, right? Genie's out of the bottle on that one.
Mhm.
So in terms of, I mean, the AI thing just blows my mind because you talk about the iterative nature and the just sort of explosive expanse. I mean, that's almost like a major that you can never master. I mean, it's almost a subject matter that is the moment you get it, it's gone. The moment you get it, there's more.
Mhm.
And so I think it becomes this, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert. I'm just playing around here, but the moment it has to be about teaching how to think about AI and how to embrace it and lean into it at a level that people can't really think about today. Like I know when it first came out, we're like, oh, marketing, it's brilliant. You can use AI to generate stuff. Use case one. Then you talk about data analytics. Then you talk about like when it gets technical enough. And I know there are companies out there that are very technical with it and are getting it to. You talk about the design build functionality of, I mean, from weapon systems to structural engineering to like I mean, you think about where we've come just in engineering, right? You're sitting at a table, one of those standing architectural tables, and you're hand drawing all that stuff out to computer assisted design and the CAD programs. Now I want a X by X room, and you just type it in and it produces the room, and you drag and drop walls. Like, think about the stuff you had to understand to be an engineer. And I think you still do, you still have to have the understanding of it, but man, it really expands what the creative component of engineering can be moving forward, because you don't have to spend all your time learning not learning, but you don't have to go through 7 CAD classes to be able to design a building now, right? So now we can
Totally.
focus on the things that are cutting edge that we haven't even thought of how design works yet.
Absolutely. And the thing is, in engineering, we're used to that.
Mhm.
We've been living that for uh, almost a century. The building right next door to the building that I'm in, Moore Hall, on the first floor is the remnants of ENIAC, the first general purpose programmable computer that was built here at Penn in the 1940s. And you got these big panels with clicky dials on them and switches and radio vacuum tubes and all this kind of stuff, all for things that are just a fraction of the computational power on my watch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We've been living this decade after decade after decade. Everyone who gets an engineering degree is only at the edge for so long, and then they have to go out and keep going, keep
Mhm.
learning, keep current. One of the fallacies that a lot of college students have when they come in is they think, oh, I'm going to spend these 4 years of my life learning and then I'm done. I got what I need. No, 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 no. You are learning how to learn.
So
And you're
true.
getting the fundamentals down, but you're learning how to learn, and you're going to keep learning for the rest of your life. We're really good at that in engineering. And with the AI program, with all of our engineering degrees, we're really training our students in some core common fundamentals that teach good thinking skills. And then we're getting them up to the edge and saying, all right, the sails are out, you're on the water, keep sailing.
Mhm.
It's fascinating correlation for me is for a long time the like the engineer was, and again, please nobody take any insult to this. It's just the common was the engineer is the in the box thinker. They're, they do their work. They're not necessarily the creatives, but man, the creative has now integrated. I think it always has been there. It's always had to be, but this blend of artistic creativity and applied science and mathematics is like, we're on a different level every single day. And I'm just like, I can't even, as I start to think about it, I'm like, man, what could someone really create with the support of the supercomputer of AI, and how that, like, if you could dream it up, it's essentially, it can become reality in some fashion or another. It's just a matter of time.
This is
If you didn't know, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Elite Collegiate Planning. Make sure to share and tag us.
so exciting. This is one of the things that just really gets me excited about what AI is going to be able to do, is the integration of both technical content generation, writing code, along with the creative generation, with art, with video. One of the things that I did this summer was I designed and taught a new course in generative AI to high school students, mostly juniors, through Penn's ESAP program. That's the Engineering Summer Academy at Penn. And it was a small class, only about 30 students, but we had 3 weeks of working all day, every day, to learn the basics of generative AI, the mathematics behind AI, and then to build stuff in projects. And oh man, these students built such cool things. I had one group of students who set up a little movie studio and got generative AI to write a script, do storyboards, come up with still shots, and then animate it. And they made like a 4-minute movie. It was really good. I had another group who trained their own neural network based on data that they took from lifting at the gym. And they were able to do this and then feed in new video of someone lifting and then analyze their form and give them suggestions for doing better. So many creative projects that blended together technical stuff and really creative, really beautiful things. And this is high school students.
Yeah.
You get them through a degree program at a top university. What are they going to do? What are they not going to be able to do?
Yeah.
So, while we're on that subject, if you would just give us a little bit more about the ESAP program, because is it a thing that the students pay for? Is it, do you have to apply and get accepted? Is it, how do you get to that?
Yeah, it is a competitive program. You got to apply in the early spring, I believe. You can find that out by searching for ESAP at Penn. It is a program that you have to pay for, but that's because you're like a college student. You live here in the dorms on campus. You've got the roommate experience. You've got the full deal of what it's like to be a student at the university. A lot of schools. Go ahead.
Sorry, that's for juniors of high school juniors or
high school students.
Okay.
It's not rigid in terms of who it is, but I think the modal student is a junior who is looking to get some experience before they apply to university in the fall following. It's a 3-week program during July.
Wow.
And all departments at Penn, is it select? I mean, so you got a ton of people on campus for those 3 weeks, and it's sort of like academia in July.
Oh yeah, we got courses in robotics, in bioengineering, in nanoscience, computer science, just all kinds of really great stuff. And then this past year, we launched the new AI course for it. And next year, I want to do it again because it was so much fun teaching that and make it bigger.
That's awesome.
All right. So now with that, because I have to ask this question because it's one that gets thrown around all the time. Obviously, Penn, very hard to get into. You mentioned the acceptance rate being low, even engineering being the lowest of the schools. And you always hear, okay, what does it take to get into an Ivy League? Right. And I have seen experts say, well, great, you have to have good grades, good test scores, a good essay. I'm saying, okay, isn't that like everyone who applies to Penn has all of those? Number one. So is something like the ESAP program, does that give you a step up in the admissions process for the fall?
So you're absolutely right. It's super hard to get into a top school, any top school. It's extraordinarily stressful. If you're a student and you're listening to this, I want you to know, look, it's not the end of the world if you don't get into your favorite school. It's going to be okay.
Hmm.
I went to the University of Toledo in Toledo, Ohio, which was great. And I got a great education. And what matters is the passion that you bring to it. So especially if you get a degree in anything on the tech side, in engineering, you're going to be fine. So definitely apply to great schools, because if you get in, there's going to be some really fantastic experiences that you have. But it is absolutely not the case that your life is over if you don't get into your dream school.
Hmm.
Now, that being said, one of the things that's really great about coming to Penn through a summer program, like the ESAP program, is that you get to know us.
Hmm.
You get to see what the campus is like, what the dorms are like, what the professors are like here. And if you really dig it and then you apply, let's say, I don't know, early decision, something like that, then we're getting a really clear signal that if we accept you, that you're going to come,
Hmm.
right? If you came to a summer program and you're like, nah, it's not that good, and then that's fine, that's great. Sometimes
So
finding out what you don't like is also useful. But if you come
absolutely.
and if you like it and apply, that gives us more information about what your interests are.
Hmm.
Oh, intrigue ping. So we've talked to a lot of different administrators, and the use of artificial intelligence, as Joe, you said on your Did You Know, we've been talking a lot about yield in higher education. It's an ongoing subject matter. We have a decline now. Penn doesn't have this scenario: declining number of applicants and a declining number of schools, and also a declining population going to higher education. And the school's objective is a one-to-one, right? So if they send out an admission, they want that child to come to that school, right? So it becomes a competitive advantage if you are touching the walls, if you are engaged in that school, right? The reason I bring all this up is because in business, we use, we have CRMs and Salesforce applications, things like that, where if I send you an email or I send you an invitation, I can see if you looked at it. I can see if you opened it up. I can see if you engaged and to what level you engaged, how long you stayed on that page, right? The colleges and universities, especially ones that are on cutting edge, are all have the same technology. They understand the engagement of a student, and there are other things than simply the grade, GPA, and all that matter. A school wants to know that you have a passion to get there, and they are calculating that stuff, right? So for the students that do that summer program, for the students that thank the professor after the session is over and send the email, it was the best experience of my life, that stuff matters. Can you confirm that?
So at the broad level, at the general level, yes, showing an interest in the university, and especially if you have some experience with the university, that helps, right? If you apply to a place and you've never even visited, then that is not demonstrating that you really know a lot about us,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right? But I wouldn't obsess over the fine scale details on that. If a student comes for a summer program and afterwards they send me a thank you note, I'm not going to send that to the admissions office and say, hey, add one more point to their file.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that fine scale of a thing. You don't have to stress out about over optimizing everything.
Okay.
But if you are interested in a school and can demonstrate that you know something about the school, maybe you've visited, maybe you've gone to a program, something like that, you've taken a look at some of the professors, what their research is, maybe mentioned something about that in an essay where you
Hmm.
write, just anything to demonstrate that you've spent some time finding out what the place is like, that demonstrates a genuine interest as opposed to, this student set up an AI to write 500 different cover letters to all the different schools so that they get into one.
I like the word genuine there.
Yeah,
is
for sure.
extremely important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was it we interviewed that said he hasn't read a poorly written paper in he said he hasn't read a poorly written paper in a year and a half or 2 years because like, and he's talking about international students too that don't have a firm grasp of the English language, still kicking out just exemplarily written papers because, hey, and he was also talking about how you have to change how you look at this, right? You have to go beyond just the understanding and the the way it's explained, but you have to really, as a professor, to grade things like that, you have to really look at the deep down into it. Is there a core understanding of it? Is it just because it's well written doesn't mean you get the concept, right? And so it puts a little bit more stress on, I would assume, this is more of a question, a little more stress on the professor to get down into the weeds with some of this.
That's absolutely right. This is a challenge that all instructors are facing everywhere. How do we properly assess what students are actually learning, what they're comprehending? As a mathematician, this is a thing that my profession has dealt with before. When cheap personal calculators came out, there was a lot of angst over, wait, how do we know that students are actually able to do arithmetic? And we don't really stress out about that so much nowadays, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean, we make sure to teach the basics early on and then assess them in a way that makes sure they get the basics. But for higher level stuff, we're not so focused on the arithmetic. We're focused on higher level conceptual understanding. So I hope that the same thing happens with writing, where we automate out the sort of drudgy parts of it and really focus on higher level skills.
Well, now I know that there's AI that can be used to determine if a paper was written by AI.
Doesn't work all that well.
No.
Yeah, news for you. No.
Yeah.
It has really high fail rates.
Okay.
And in particular, the kind of fail rates where it's like a false accusation, which is terrible for a student.
Sure.
Really
Yeah,
bad.
that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, and those false detections tend to hit international students more frequently, and then that's just really unjust on a whole bunch of levels. I really advise against using AI detection software.
Got
it. Good insight on that. So I went to Franklin Marshall, and I had an opportunity in my junior year. I guess it wasn't. How do I say this without? I had to drop a class. I had a requirement to graduate in 4 years. That was between my parents and I. And I had an opportunity to design an internship that applied to credit in two different capacities, in business and in economics. How creative is Penn and are the students in interdisciplinary studies and internships for credit and things like that?
So this is a very delicate issue because as undergraduate dean, I have a whole student handbook of rules and regulations about what can count for what can be substituted here. You can do this, you can't do this, you can't go above this, etc. I have to know those rules really well. I have to enforce those rules fairly and equitably. I also have to know when, if I've got a student who's really in a crisis situation, when can those guidelines be bent? This is one of the most difficult aspects of this job is making sure that the rules are followed and enforced equitably without giving preference to any people, but respecting the fact that it's impossible to write a rigid system of rules that can properly manage every possible student situation that comes up. So you ask me a question like that, I'm going to respond very much like a lawyer and say, it depends on the situation, and
Yeah.
there is a very, very complex process for making sure that students are treated equitably.
Yeah, I mean, I had to meet with deans. I had to present it to the business chair of the business department, chair of the economics department. I had to write up exactly what was going to be done. I had to, tell them what done looked like. I went through a painstaking process to have the internship that I acquired count for credit for, and it was a single class credit. But it was, and I had to work with the CEO of the business to like say, can you provide me this experience? So I had to apply on both sides. I had to apply at the company level to say, here's the jobs that I need to be able to do, or the things I need to be able to learn to have this apply for credit. And so it was it was not an easy process by any standards. But it was probably the best education I got, because I was real time working in manufacturing. I was working in under the CFO, under the sales. I did a bunch of different stints in different areas. So um, again, I appreciate the answer of like, it really does depend, and it depends on what you're asking for and what you're trying to replace, et cetera. So I wasn't trying to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, it sounds like that experience was really good for you. Better
It
than
was.
the actual work was managing the bureaucracy.
It was by far the learning experience, and being a small business owner myself, like it taught, I learned more from that. I did it for a semester for the credit, but then I continued through the summer with that company, and I worked the following school year doing the same thing. And so, and it what turned out, and this is, I think, good to share, because it turned into an opportunity where I was the person responsible for creating their management training program, because I applied as an intern, but then applied to my school. My school said, you've got to learn higher level stuff. And so there were 4 divisions of the company, and I had to sit with each of them for 6 months over that year and a half, or sorry, 2-year period, and design how they were going to train their next level of management under the CFO, under the sales manager, and under the production manager, and then obviously the CEO as well. So it paid dividends far beyond the credit that I did earn back and graduated on time. So, as far as inner school subject studying, right? So you have an engineer that wants to understand business, right? I tell a story all the time. The most successful, let me take that back. The wealthiest engineers, and you judge success in your own right. The wealthiest engineers I know are ones that not only can do the design, the execution, but can also communicate it very well to others and sell it, and produce the volume of sales. So how does it work at Penn if you want to have a minor in business or something like that? Are they very open to that? And is
Oh,
there
we
time? I
have,
think.
oh yeah, we've got so many ways for engineering students to interface outside of the engineering school. This goes back to your opening questions about Penn Integrates Knowledge.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We've got the Wharton Management and Technology program, which is a dual degree program between engineering and Wharton. You get
Mm.
2 degrees, one in engineering and then one on the Wharton side. That might be management, finance, something like that. And that's a very prestigious program that's really training a lot of business leaders with strong tech skills. But we also have just a lot of single degree engineering students who are also taking some classes over at Wharton, taking some management classes, finance classes, things like that. Of course, the master's degree is a great place to branch out and do something else. And that might be a different aspect of tech, like AI, data science, or it might be moving out to an MBA, something like that. Great combo.
Mm.
There's also a lot of other sort of non-academic things you could do to branch out, various clubs. We had talked about research before. That's absolutely a great way to get breadth. We have a top medical school that's a 5-minute walk from here. And we get a lot of our engineering undergrads who go do research in the labs at the medical school. That's really a great way to branch out and become broad. Some engineering schools might focus on just absolute depth, right? You get someone with a computer science degree from, I won't say which university, but they're like the best coder you've ever seen, right?
Mhm.
Our goals at Penn are maybe a little bit different. We want to train leaders. We want them to be good coders, but we also want them to be good leaders. And
Mhm.
that means breadth, that means communication skills, that means vision and gumption. We have a lot of entrepreneurial activity.
Mhm.
On the undergraduate side, we got a lot of people who go out into the startup world. That is very much what Penn is known for, and I'm very proud of that.
All right. My last question, I think, is a good one for the listening audience. You made mention that, you in your role as associate dean now, you're helping students get through the struggle sometimes, find the help they need, find the resources they need. As advice to prospective college students, right? What are the things that get students, behind the eight ball, or get them in a situation that's hard to overcome, and how can they prevent some of that?
There's so many things that I want to say there. Let me try to keep it short so that we don't go on forever and ever, because I see a lot of undergrads, a lot of amazing, super talented undergrads
Mm-hmm.
who have just been working for years to get into a top school like Penn. And then they get here, and then they're not sure what to do because they did it, they got in. And they get here, and all of a sudden, everyone around them is just as talented and driven and competitive. This is not a good way to have a happy life, is to surround yourself with all that stress and to keep that competitiveness. The number one thing that a student can do in order to have just a really great, successful, wonderful college experience is to be comfortable with yourself where you are, be ambitious, go out there, be ready to do great things, but don't obsess about looking around at everyone else and saying, oh, I think this person's better than me. I feel like I can't keep up with this person. A lot of times there's just so much anxiety under the surface that nobody wants to admit that college is hard. Nobody wants to admit that they're having a tough time keeping up with material in a certain class. And so they put on the face, they put on the happy face. Everything's great until it's not.
Mm.
Being open about where you're at, what your struggles are, being honest with yourself. Hey, maybe I ought to go talk to an advisor and get some advice, assistance. That could go a long way towards making the college experience better. College is supposed to be just absolutely the best time of your life, right? You're in
Absolutely.
it. You're with all these really cool people. The density of information that is coming at you is super high. Just a fantastic time. Don't go off the tracks and let the stress and the anxiety blow you up. Find ways to let go and ask for help when you need it. That's my short advice.
Love it.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Ask for help.
Yeah.
Self-advocacy is the most important thing to get you through anything like that. The other thing that I think everybody needs to understand is that 50% of all Penn graduates graduated in the bottom half of the class. That is a fact that you cannot escape. So,
What? What? 50%? Oh my gosh, I got to work on these numbers, people.
right?
Yeah.
But I think people get so caught up in the grade and the comparison that they worry about the learning environment, because
Mhm.
we've just got through an hour of talking about how when you graduate, the knowledge you have is good for that minute. It's good for that piece of paper, and then the knowledge you have to gain moving forward is what matters. So go in with the intent to learn, and you're going to come out and be just fine. But not everybody can be the valedictorian, right?
Yeah.
So
My last question, kind of off topic. I noticed that, and maybe this had to do with when Dave mentioned, evolving the way that you teach. You have a pretty interesting YouTube channel with a lot of courses and different chapters and things like that. Is this under the radar? This thing? It seemed like, was this something that started during COVID when things went virtual that you kind of took and ran with? What exactly were you doing with that?
Oh no, I've been really interested in sort of new ways of communicating technical content, new ways of teaching for a long time, way before COVID. So
Okay.
back in 2012, I started making videos for calculus. Penn was partnering with Coursera at that time. I had a course on there that was very popular, and I really got the bug after that and kept on making videos and just put them up on a YouTube channel so that you don't have to pay to register for whatever. You could just have access to the content. We use these videos in the courses that I teach here at Penn. So if you want to see what my students are learning, you can check it out. Those are the videos right there. Sadly, I don't have so much time to be making new videos now that I'm the associate dean. It's
Sure.
busy, but I am keeping up with learning new things. I've been doing a lot of learning with AI generated art, AI generated video. And what my hope is that in just a short amount of time, it'll be possible to speed up the process of making really good, really high quality video content for learning.
Love it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been an incredible interview. I thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Everyone listening, this has been Dr. Robert Ghrist from the University of Pennsylvania. Rob, thank you so much for your time. Professor G, however you want to go about it. I love it. I appreciate your insight. I appreciate you talking to all different subject matter on University of Pennsylvania and what's going on. Congratulations on your success. And hopefully you get to reinvent how we're all learning what you have to teach in the near future. So our fingers are crossed too. I love it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, gents. Great talking with you.
Everybody, this has been College Knowledge. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, subscribe, and share, and you'll get, I guess, the heads up on all the new content we put out.
Yep.
Thank you guys for being a part of College Knowledge, powered by Elite Collegiate Planning. If you didn't know, we have a free crash course on college funding at elitecollegiateplanning.com. This will explain different types of loans, types of financial aid, savings vehicles, and much more. And remember, plan early and pay less.